Hello there everyone, welcome back. It is time for a second match of the championship, at least my second match there, as we face off against Orks this time around. And I'm not gonna lie, I am not feeling very comfortable with this matchup here, because quite frankly, out of all my YouTube videos I've been doing so far on BattleFleet Gothic, Ork is probably the faction I have been battling against the least by a landslide practically, because almost no one wanted to use them there in my lower admiral level matches there. And I think Eldar have got are like the second, or at least close to second, for the faction I've been encountering the least. But we're going to start off with a space station assault there, and let's see, Ork is going to be defending, which probably tells me he's going to go with the traditional torpedo, maybe fighter style there. Nonetheless, I go with my usual styles: the Tyrants, the Retribution, the Dauntless, the pretty straightforward fleet there. I like the idea of the torpedoes, but coming into this match, I don't know how I'm really going to fare there. I know I can just spread out my fleet to kind of minimize the amount of torpedoes I'm taking there, and that's kind of what I do for my opening. Is what I will do is kind of spread out all my ships there a little bit, so that way it makes it really difficult for him to focus fire and hit multiple ships. He's kind of has to do a wide arc if he wants to get my entire fleet, and even then, that just means one, maybe two torpedoes are hitting me at a time. But that's the route I pretty much go there ultimately, just spread it a little bit, nothing too drastic. And of course, I'm noticing this terrain in the way, which makes things a little bit awkward, as you can kind of see, since I'm kind of shuffling all my ships over to the left a tiny bit. But if you see my stream already over the weekend there, you know how I try to play against Orks there, because I counted them maybe 2 times during that weekend. So I pretty much do the same here, and hell, even one of those Ork matches was even against the Space Station Assault, so I do have good experience for the flow of it. It's just an understanding of how much I can push it, especially with the Orks customization there, so they can have a wide variety of upgrades. Like some Orks will have nothing but fighters for like the torpedoes that he's probably going to be expecting there. So without a doubt, I'm certain he's going with torpedoes, and I see all these mines like immediately there, and I'm kind of a little bit shocked because I don't see that these mines are going to do anything for this match. Maybe if he was to be aggressive and try and push me there, then they may be awkward for like maneuvering around in a frantic pace, but as it stands now, it just helps with my spreading out, quite frankly, as the torpedo wars begin. So buckle up, folks, this is going to be a while. As I move my Widowmaker to kind of hide behind the wreckage there, pretty content that it can't get destroyed so long as it's close enough that the wreckage there, the poor victim that tried to attack the Orks the last time, has kind of suffered the fate they suffered, as apparently it does look like an Imperial ship of some kind. So what I do is just, I happily reveal myself there, kind of like to test the waters a little bit to see what kind of phase that he has going on. And otherwise, I'm ultimately trying to fire all my torpedoes together to try and brute force my way to some damage there. And it's funny enough, the fact that I'm spraying out is kind of working well for me, because he is actually trying to go after the Dauntless of all things. They're not even actually aimed properly to hit the Tyrant that I have placed there, although I still have to take a little bit of maneuvers for that as well. But overall, very little risk of damage. Hell, I haven't even taken any damage yet, but that's going to change momentarily, as the Dauntless is going to dodge its 2 torpedoes, and I'm about to take my first hit there. Thankfully, block that, and I actually shoot down 3 of the torpedoes I would have got through the Dauntless, so I got a little lucky there. But as you can see there, he is swarming with fighters, so I'm kind of realizing that my torpedoes are not going to do damage, but they are slowly going to hit something there without a doubt. So what you have been seeing there after each torpedo wave is I try to creep forward a little bit at a time there, just mainly trying not to be too aggressive that he would suddenly dive in there. Kind of hesitant of him diving in, even though technically the one thing I kind of did not consider throughout this entire match is the fact, since he has so many fighter bombers, and just to spoil what his fleet composition is, he has 2 battle cruisers and 1 cruiser. He did not field his battleship for this, so he has that and a couple of savages, which are over on the right there, the little clump of 4 ships that I kind of did not notice there at first. But one thing I did not really consider, as I am frantically trying to swerve around this mine here, is that he invested his upgrades on pretty much the lances, I believe, and a good handful of bombers. Hell, it's entirely possible one of those cruisers is like nothing but fighters. And I say bombers, that's not really true. He just went with the ordnance launchers. Because, quite frankly, Ork bombers are probably are straight up the worst bombers in the game, because they only do like 10 damage, as opposed to the 30 that my Dictator would do, and the 40, of course, of Eldar. And let's not talk about the Manta Bomber of Tau, shall we? But I have no revealed vision yet, but my Widowmaker is already moving up to at least get a bead on how I'm progressing in terms of damage. I have heard a few repairs going on there, and I did not really look at the fighter count to really know how many ordnance launchers he has, but I know for a fact that his cruisers can only have like 2 custom points, so I know at least each one of them has at least 1 fighter bay, so it's just a question of whether he's committed too much on the fighters or if he included lances, because really, what I've been trying to get at there as this battle is going on is, if he's invested all his customization to the fighters, then that really means he has no close range firepower. He only has lots of guns, and he has no heavy cannons of any kind. So really, I feel like after going through this match, I probably could have been a little more aggressive, but still, the damage is still beneficial for me, as the hammer is down to 3rd health, almost a 3rd. It did repair, and this is the first time I'm noticing the savages there, and I actually am not really intimidated by them. It's basically a free 100 points for me there, even if I whip that Cobra torpedo run really horribly there. I whiffed it badly, but with the Retribution kind of flanking on the side, because remember folks, these savages only have 25 armor on the side, never mind the rear, so once I kill these 4 ships, then that's 300 points there, and his cruisers aren't even budging at this point, so this just helps with my momentum a little bit, even if I may take a little bit of damage. We've got Supercharged Void Shield to kind of soak a little bit of that damage. One of the cruisers is about to go down, or frigates rather, as I launch some torpedoes. And even though I am still watching the cruisers, as is made apparent as I'm repositioning my ships to kind of minimize the amount of torpedoes they've taken. Wow, I didn't even realize I took no damage from the torpedoes just yet, at least with the Retribution Tyrant here. But that's easily changing right now as I mention it. But the savages are already being dealt with. The 3rd one's about to go. Just waiting for more torpedoes, which I whiffed that horribly there. I kind of rushed that preemptively. So the Dauntless could have killed another frigate. It's still going to die, mind you. But, as I said, that's 300 points there if it's a standing force, so all that really does is it stalls my torpedo onslaught a little bit, so he has time to get more repairs up for his hammer that's taking damage. And these brutes aren't really all that scary. I don't really care about these brutes all that much. All I have to do is make sure my prow is kind of facing them, so that way they do almost no damage to me. Because, quite frankly, they do double damage on the ram, but considering they only have 100 health, and ramming is based on their health and the armor, it's no different than the savages ramming me, let's be frank. These things just die a lot faster, whereas the savages would have been more useful as a ramming ship anyway. On top of the fact they got heavy cannons as well. But that's the last of the savages right now, and I go back to try and harass a bit. I've still never took account of the ordnance launchers that he has there. I'm assuming he has at least 1 for each ship, but it almost looks like at least the 1 cruiser on the left has like 2 or 4 ordnance bays, so it's as I said before, it has no real close-range firepower so long as I'm mindful and aware of the torpedoes. Because with his poor maneuverability, I have plenty of time to kind of get my heading and positioning right to kind of avoid them, as far as the torpedoes are concerned. And he is starting to launch boarding torpedoes, which I didn't recognize at the time, so I kind of wasted brace for impact for no reason, because there is actually a color difference for the boarding torpedoes. So I could have used that for a lock-on instead, as I'm slowly starting to push up there, edging my way forward, just trying to find how much I can get away with. Again, I'm completely oblivious to the ordnance launchers there, as they are doing really well at stopping my torpedo waves, but I'm still doing damage. I'm still slowly getting on the better end of this, because I haven't even invested in repairs for my retribution yet, and I'm contemplating doing that just now. Kind of questionable letting the torpedoes hit there, but hell, I had brace for impact, and I am in range to start shooting at these ships, so I start to take advantage of that a little bit. And once the lances and weaponry start hitting, especially since he has no brace for impact at the moment, then you're going to start seeing some progress being made. It's just unfortunate, even though I'm trying to focus on the weakened one on the right, the more battered one, the range is not quite working out the best. I am trying to stay outside the station there, and thankfully, even though the damage hasn't been all that impressive, it does force a response from him. So now, it leaves the station open to torpedoes at least. Not that it's going to make that much of a difference, considering the fighters are still right there. But at least now I can actually do damage to that and force an engagement maybe. I still am a little uncomfortable trying to get in sensor range, because I'm not really used to the firepower of a battle station there, so I'm probably overthinking a little bit at this point, but I do try to swing around, if nothing else, and start firing on the beacons on the side there, because I still have 10 minutes to try and make something stick. And again, kind of like I explained a lot with my Space Marine match, I am just really content in getting ship kills. I'm almost willing to forfeit this match just so I could kill the battle cruisers ideally, because I think those are really damn valuable, even though all they really are just fighter ships. All they have is a bunch of fighters and a bunch of bombers, which so long as I can dodge the torpedoes, I'll state again, I don't think I have anything to worry about. So I probably could stand to be so much more aggressive there, especially considering I'm doing damn well just standing my ground with like no fighters or anything to reliably shoot the torpedoes. I've been on the really damn good receiving end of this, I feel like. Just a little bit. It's just not being able to get my macro batteries to start contributing that's kind of hurting me now. Especially now that the station is also firing on me. Well, really, it's not the station, it's more the beacon there, too. And really, I'm only seeing a handful of sap cans, which I could kind of live with, considering, again, the durability of my fleet is more on the shields, so... And if anything, the shields our strongest defense against lances, I feel like. Arguably still good, as opposed to like taking lances on the armor, even with any like overcharge or additional shield damage upgrade they have. So I do have that going for me regardless, especially with the faster recharge on the shields I have on all my ships too. I don't think there's any real risk of the station, but I quickly deal with his brutes. I try to ward off the torpedoes a little bit by trying to get some of my Cobra frigate from the Dauntless favor to try and help shoot him down, if not just take some of the hits. As I received the brute shit again, and as you witnessed, practically did absolutely no damage at all for a brace for impact Tyrant. Hell, I don't even see the health budge at all. I don't know if you're seeing it, but that health pool did not even budge once from both those hits, so they're not really a threat, they're just a nuisance. They force me to take them seriously is all. And he is launching bombers too, while I'm more certain they're boarding parties. Because again, the bombers of the Orks actually only do like 10 damage each, so I'm not really seeing anything happen here, regardless. And with my ships all clumped up there nicely as I boost to mitigate a lot of the torpedo damage, they do pretty much nothing there. So really, if you're going to use them aggressively, it's probably more the boarding ships. But even then, I did not see the damage budge at all, let alone any warnings that he got any boarding torpedoes in. So I don't even think any of those ships made it to my... Well, I don't think any of them made it to my overlords. The fighters probably did, but not the assault ships or the bombers. So they're not much of a threat. Hell, I don't even think he upgrades the fighters, and can you really blame him? They're more... I think it's safe to say he used them more for defensive purposes than anything else. Another torpedo goes in. I'm really tempted to try and kill that hammer. I wanted to say hammer that hammer, but I said it anyway, so I guess we got regardless. But it's clear what I'm wanting to do here. I want to kill that ship. I want to start getting some progress. I'm content with losing the match if he ends up having no standing army for like match 3. So, I'm going to have fun with this ship here. As he does get the torpedoes off, he starts ramming. And I accidentally do get the assault running there instead of the brace for impact, which does promptly hurt a little bit, especially for the torpedoes especially. I should have really, like I said before, just faced my prow to him. Not only would that mitigate so much of the ramming damage, I would only take like 1 or 2 torpedo hits at most. So, I would not be warping it out in that situation if I had kept it at higher health, and even then, his hammer still dies, so we're still on equal terms. It's not like I'm losing this fight. I'm just choosing to preserve my tyrant for the final match, ideally, if a loss in warp effect were to happen. And of course, mutinies are always fun, aren't they? Even if it's only like a 12% chance. Mind you, it's 12% chance across 2 ships, and I'm not including the Dauntless because, again, Imperial Navy favor, it's immune to insubordination. But still, he is running away from me. I got a beautiful rear shot here, but I don't see any shots going off there, and this is where I decide to start pushing or pressuring the station. And pay close attention to Retribution, because I'm not sure why it happened, but there's a window here where the Retribution just refuses to fire, as you clearly are seeing right now. Okay, it's firing now, but as I push up closer, there's a window, it seems like. I'm paying close attention as well, because I'm curious if it's true or not, but I felt like my damn Retribution is just refusing to fire for me. Just pay close attention, because again, where's the left side macro batteries? Why aren't they firing? Because I do check at one point if it's holding fire or not by accident. Still not firing. What the... And I have no idea why that is. Yeah, I have it individually selected now. It's not holding fire, but... Yeah, I'm specifically checking and wondering at this point why the hell it's not engaging. Then I swiftly turn it around in a moment as I start to realize this attack's not going to work. Simply because of that alone. And it infuriates me. I don't know why it is. But it's starting now. I just don't know what happened there. Only justification I could think of is it was trying to shoot at the station, but it's an AI thing, kind of similar if you play Eldar, whereas if you have any ships in front of you and you try to attack a ship, the pulsars just refuse to fire, even if it's an enemy ship, in this case, for some reason. That's my theory, but it completely thwarts my attack efforts, because I could have destroyed that one beacon there and denied one of his lances from hitting me. It's a little bit infuriating, and my Retribution took a lot of damage as a result. Hell, it's still taking a bunch of damage as I suffer a hull breach. So, I changed my attack pattern a little bit. I take the hits, I have shield transfers, of course, and I'm aiming now, once I get myself in position once the stasis bomb's off. And hell, isn't it just me, or did that tyrant just fire out of the stasis bomb with no issue? I wasn't looking at it, but it seemed like those macro cannons were unhindered. I don't know, maybe I'm going crazy, that's entirely possible too, but with the hammer turning around, you know what I plan on doing. I plan to focus the hell out of that thing, and yeah, it has 3 fighters swarm it, so that actually does have 2 ordnance launchers for its upgrade points, so it only has torpedoes going for it, which explains why he's running away from me, quite frankly, I think. Because he already used the torpedoes, so he has really nothing else going for him if he were to get in close. My armor-piercing rounds would have just murdered and shred him. and my retribution is getting really low on health, so I am really weary of committing to this fight. I just really want to destroy his second hammer as it pushes on in, and he tries to do something sneaky by trying to hit my flank with a brute. It's thankfully a brace for impact in time, but still a little bit of damage. It was only like 20-30 points of damage, I guess. And a bunch of fighters and bombers do reach me there, but I don't even see any damage still registering, let alone boards. So it's so close to being heavily damaged, so I just warp it out there. And of course, again, this damn tyrant decides to mutiny and it damages my prows. Thankfully, repairs are back up, so I promptly fix that and give this hammer a good, nice helping of torpedoes, which is denied, but 2 still hit, and I got a nice rear shot in a moment here with my macro cannons. So it just comes down to whether I can kill this hammer or not. This is my goal right now. This is all I want as I try to get my Cobra to get a nice melta shot in, but he turns around. I face my prow with the tyrant, and not only does his torpedoes, or at least most of the torpedoes, do no damage because it was too close, but I get a lovely 25 armor shot in a moment for my next round. And its generators are down. I got a nice broadside point blank range also with the armor piercing rounds on the side, so that's pretty much just as good. And I don't know if I was close enough to get the armor piercing round effect for that shot, but I am committing to killing this hammer. I have the health for it. I have supercharged void shield going online. Not that it matters that much again, because he only has lots of guns which aren't really all that terrifying, but they will do a notable amount of damage at this range. It's at like 50 health. It's going, it's gone, and explodes on me like all orcs do. Go figure. And with that said, I decided to cut my losses. I destroyed both his battle cruisers, and I lost no real ships there. Although my Dauntless might still get heavily damaged as it's getting charged and rammed. And it does get heavily damaged, actually. Not that it was a big loss. Not that it was a big loss at all to have that Dauntless of all things heavily damaged. I have 3 more of those to spare, and 2 of them have the exact same upgrades, so I could have afforded to let that die if I wanted to, but if I already could see it this match by warping out the tyrant, then I'm just gonna let it go. Thinking it would save some time, and then of course I completely forget about this Widowmaker, which I promptly bring in there to hopefully do one last hurrah, which is highly unlikely going to happen. Overall, I feel like I did a good job destroying the hammers at least, with no real losses. I do lose the match though, and this match goes on for an incredibly long time, probably a lot longer than it needed to. I probably could have pushed up a little more aggressively as I mentioned before, considering the fact he only has torpedoes for his actual weapon to do damage with. So I could have bullied him, I could have pushed that, but at the time, during this match, I didn't really consider the fact that he had no heavy cannons of any sort. Hell, he didn't even have any lances, surprising enough, as I was looking at that. It was really the battle station, the beacons that were doing that. So that was kind of interesting. It does work well for the the space station assault, mind you, because those fighters are still effective at shooting down my torpedoes, but I could have just straight up won using macro cannons there. Although when I do try to push the station, as I mentioned before, for some reason my Retribution's cannons start to rebel on me and don't even attack at all. And then I start contemplating my mission type here, but I go with the Defender Space Station Assault. It's kind of funny. It seems like even in my weekend games there, everyone wants to pick Space Station Assault. Mainly probably because of the Imperial Navy, quite frankly, because the space station does have 4 fighter bays to basically help almost make it impervious to torpedoes. And when you add like a handful of cruisers in front of it that potentially can also have fighters on top of point defense, you are having a very solid position there. As made apparent, considering that was the route I was going, is all torpedoes, trying to brute force and get some damage in as I tried to find a nice opening to pressure them. Mind you, I was being more cautious than I probably needed to, because again, Orks is probably the faction I've least played against, let alone most of those were probably lower admiral levels too, so I haven't had much experience with a high admiral level fleet to begin with. Let alone one that was custom made for space station assault. Remember, since this is ranked mode, he can choose the mission type. I'm almost certain those 3 cruisers were designed specifically for defending a space station assault for the map he can choose from. So, as laughable as it may seem as far as the progression or persistent type of game mode, it was damn effective there, at least against the Imperial Navy. But now the tables have turned. I am comfortable, especially after how resilient my ships have been against his torpedoes, of defending as well. And with the Widowmakers and my 12,000 unit range, I feel like I can force him to come into me quite easily as I plot on where to put my Widowmaker for fission. And as you probably are seeing there, I'm contemplating putting it in an asteroid field because it also renders it invisible when I am not moving it, so you can see me turning around to the nearest escape point to minimize the damage, because if I were to ever turn it, if I were to ever move it, it will take a lot of damage with its 25 armor. So it's a safe position there until the torpedoes start flying, but I am very mindful of its position. I probably really quickly move it out because I do realize his positioning there where he's deployed. So fighters come on out, the Dictator is on out. It's the same fleet as I did with the Space Marines, the 2 Overlords and 1 Dictator. So the long range harassment is still the same. My macro cannons are a little bit weaker due to the fact that Dictator is more of like a support ship. The bombers could still reach a 12,000 unit range, but with how long it takes for him to travel, if he feels that the bombers are a threat, he can easily reposition his ships to have his other cruisers kind of defend and shoot him down. And yeah, look, more fighters. Is anyone surprised? In this case though, he actually does bring in his battleship, which I think is the one on the right there with only 1 fighter fleet. I honestly can't remember. No, it's the one in the middle there. So I'm trying to think as he charges in if the Death Dealer had 2 ordnance launchers or not, because he has the double mega cannons on that battleship there, so that explains why he's getting so aggressive. He thinks he can brute force this. And if he gets some damn good torpedo hits on the battle station, he could very well do that, as the shock attacks pretty much do laughable damage with an easy repair, but it does forces a repair. And I honestly can't remember if I panicked here a little bit, but the main idea is to shoot his 50 armor on the side. That's the main idea, and I ultimately turn this Overlord around so that way it can shield for the battle station if he commits this fight. But I mainly do this so I can hit the juicy side armor of these Orks. And even more so if once they get within armor-piercing round range, as I get a beautiful torpedo hit there. Brace for impact does mitigate a lot of that damage though. And I start to do the same with this Overlord. Mainly just blocking for a death deal at this point for the Overlord. Because one of the torpedoes is already gone, so that tear alone is pretty much useless. Especially this close, because I'm just immediately going to shoot down his fighters. So I focus on the Earth Hammer, try to cripple it. Its generators does die, so it's not long for this world as he tries to board and bomb. Do whatever Orks do. And I get a nice, lovely Melta shot there. I'm pretty certain I was Melta. I don't know if there's an actual color difference like with the Ork boarding torpedoes, so I honestly can't remember. But it pays off beautifully as that hammer, this tear is just going to burn to death. The other one, at point blank range, armor piercing round range is just shortly going to die with it, but the real threat here is the Death Dealer. Again, it has double mega cannons there. I have shield transfers available to kind of deny him any critical hits at least, because he still has to get through the shields. And I have my Overlord and Dictator kind of in the way for these savages. And with the exploding Orks, it doesn't help much. But one little maneuver I do there, I try desperately to deny the prow to attack the battle station by ramming the engine, trying to turn it there. And even though it's already about to die, quite frankly, I think it's effective. Because as you can see right now, he's only got his broadside, which, as we already found out with the choices he made, the Death Dealer was not going to be very effective with his broadside. So I thwarted potential disaster there with his kamikaze maneuver. So it's just a matter of cleaning up this mess. And without a doubt, I just shield the battle station and enjoy the juicy 50 armor that these savages now have. 25 armor if I ever get any flanking shots. And just murder them. I do get heavily damaged Overlord though, but at this point, I destroyed his battle cruisers, I destroyed the battleship, and I destroyed one of his regular cruisers. So at the moment, we are looking at 4 light cruisers, 2 regular cruisers, and whatever points he has left, he's forced to use for frigates. Because I believe with 700 points, he doesn't even... Yeah, 700 points, he can't even field all those light cruisers and cruisers there, basically, without still having points for, like, frigates of some kind. Unless they all had ordnance bays, that might be the exception, because that does inflate Ork points a little bit with how cheap they already are. But yeah, I start to make a comeback a little bit. Well, it equals the match anyway. I don't know how you feel if I squandered the first match, if you consider that a comeback. But still, I feel really comfortable coming this last match. He has no heavy hitters now. I did not pay attention to his upgrades, so that may have been a fault. It's something I really need to work on there, paying attention on where his renown is going. Because I know he had shock attacks, at least in that fleet there, because he used 2 of them on the station there. So, without a doubt, I go back to my tried true Tyrant Retribution fleet, because especially since I'm missing an Overlord anyway from it being heavily damaged. So we go into the last match. I'm feeling confident because I only have cruisers and light cruisers to deal with. I'm still curious of what the light cruisers are fielding though, because if they're more torpedoes I should be fine, because hell, I weathered the torpedoes incredibly well already, it seems like. So I should be fine there. It's the mega cannons I'm a little bit weary of, especially since he seems to have a prevalence for using savages. So, with my prow, I don't think the savages are a really big threat anyway. Although, so let's see, what's the layout of the map there? I originally start planning for maybe taking that gas cloud, or at least getting a position to utilize it there if I can get a window for it. But I deploy, aiming to go for that cloud there, at least force him out of it. Not that it matters all that much, considering I've been good about utilizing the Widowmaker at least, but still, I'd like to try, if it is going to somehow be a drawn out type of match, I could bully him out of that. And of course, get in a good aggressive position to posture for it anyway. But I'm looking at the counter at this point here. I'm just wondering if he's going all cruisers, or if he decides to go like lots of frigates there, kind of like how the Space Marine player did the last time. And I did not realize it until looking at the recording. This is actually the same person who played the Space Marine match, my first match. I did not queue up for this ranked battle immediately after my first match. I took like about a half hour, 20-minute break, I think, just to help hopefully get a different opponent. Not have to constantly be fighting the same person over and over again. But we're looking at 14 ships. We know what this is. I don't need to tell anyone there, but yes, Admiral. We're looking at a bunch of frigates on the right, and we're looking at the, what is it, 4 light cruisers on the left. I'm pretty certain he fields the light cruisers with this fleet, considering he made all the terrors and hammers basically like his fighter ships or carrier type of Ork ships. So they will not serve him very well for the reasons I stated before on how he has no real damage if the torpedoes don't stick, if they don't hit, and with me just facing my prow to him outside point blank range torpedo shots, he's not really going to get anywhere with those torpedoes. And he decides to try and boost away from the torpedoes, and in the end it doesn't really do a whole lot. I heavily damaged one of the savages already. I forced some repairs as it is, and another one's already half damage. So I decided to change my approach a little bit, and instead I decided to go to the asteroid field here. I say to hell with the gas cloud and force him to have to either maneuver around this asteroid field, or he has to go through it and take additional damage. It may not be a lot of damage with his 75 armor, but if he does go through there, he's still going to take notable damage unless it forces a brace for impact. And even then, it forces a brace for impact, which means he's not getting any additional power with lock-on or anything else, let alone a reload if he wants to go super aggressive with his charging in. At least that's the thought process there. I take a posture behind the asteroid field, and I'm very comfortable with this. I start skirting a little bit more to the left to try and approach the light cruisers a little bit, but I think my focus ultimately is still on the frigates there because there's such a nice clump there, and with how effective the first few shots have been, just crippling everything. Hell, even one of them's on fire right now with the repairs already expended. I think it's going to die as well pretty damn soon with the Ork negative trait of fires lasting twice as long. So I do fire one shot on the light cruisers. They do force a few repairs, if nothing else, and I continue to chip down the light cruisers, or the frigates anyway. Starts going back a little bit because he seems content to go through the asteroid field. I am watching to see what kind of damage it takes, but with the lances and macro cannons contributing and lock on as bonus, he's gonna take a little bit of damage pretty quickly. Oh, maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm looking at that one savage in the asteroid field. No damage at all. Did he seriously have the upgrade that ignores asteroids? Did he seriously take that? Wow. So maybe my strategy wasn't as good as I thought, but damn, he invested 200 renown in that type of upgrade, and I don't even think it was worth it, as these savages are rapidly getting murdered. Remember, 25 armor on the side, so I'm spread out nicely to maximize that damage. Although that may not have been the best torpedo shot, I won't lie, but I just didn't want to risk hitting my own retribution as well. So it's a fine consolation as I just go in and ram everything now. And he suffers a bunch of insubordinations too. And I'm looking at the light cruisers. Oh, he did field one of his tears there, so... And that one's a different loadout apparently, so he did not go with the fighters on that one cruiser at least. So this is his backup plan, I guess. He's all mega cans. This can be a little bit scary, but remember folks, Ork mega cans do not have armor penetration like a bombardment can, so long as I'm mindful of not getting hit by all of them from the side, I'm still in good shape. Hell, I just run my retribution away as my other ships do a nice flanking maneuver with the torpedoes. Continue firing. He is infesting his orders there, the brace for impact on the front one that I'm trying to focus down, but in the end, it still hurts like hell. Still hurts like hell. He is charging in, and with the position I have actually, I'm going to get some amazing flanking shots to the point where the Tyrant's going to get armor piercing shots as well at this range. And the Dauntless, interestingly enough, I don't know why I did this, but it's charged on in there with brace for impact. Mostly it probably disrupted its movement a little bit by knocking him around, turning him a bit. Because again, he does have mega cans, and with his brace for impact, it can actually soak those shots really well, because those things do have a long reload time. I think like 15 seconds, so it's shots that are not going to the retribution at least. So it gives me one free extra shot from all my ships before he can get another salvo in. And all his prows are practically being destroyed there. I don't even think I prioritized the weapons, and all his prows are dying. So I think we came to a frick there. We know what the result is as his cruisers start dying, start getting hit with armor-piercing rounds. That the second match is also a victory. I still feel like I could have been a little more aggressive there, but again, it comes a lot from the lack of experience, quite frankly. I just don't know how much I can get away with, because if he had like the heavy cans on the side, he could charge me and do a crap ton of damage when he rams me to the side. Like if he had heavy cans now, that would be a crap ton of damage right there if he had 2 salvos. I would have shields up, so it's not like I would have took any real hull damage. But that was my concern there. especially since the orcs I played against in my live stream, my Twitch stream, were utilizing the heavy and mega cannons there. So that was my real hesitation, and again, its lack of experience. But after the fact, though, I feel like I could have gotten a lot more aggressive, because again, it's only his torpedoes, and as we witnessed in that first round, I was really damn good at weathering the storm. Even with all his fighters, I feel like I was doing more damage to him anyway, especially with my ships getting spread out, so he could only hit one ship at a time, for the most part anyway. But that was the second match of the championship. Let's continue on with some more wins, shall we? Here's hoping.